Alright, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I wanted to give you guys a full comprehensive guide of how I view and approach nutrition. Because nowadays, with the internet, we are just inundated with information and people might get confused and overwhelmed about the subject of nutrition and think that it's something so complicated. But if you just know the core principles of nutrition, you'll see that it's not as overwhelming. So the reason I pursued a degree in nutrition is because I just find the topic so interesting. I'm just so fascinated that we could change the way we look, how good we feel, how long we live, how many diseases we get. Obviously, you can still get sick with proper nutrition. You can get hit by a bus at any time, but it will vastly lower the chances of that. So the main pillars of nutrition are your macronutrients and your micronutrients. Your macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats, and your micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. And each nutrient is super important for your health. So starting off with protein. So when people talk about protein, they mainly think about muscle, which yes, it is super important for muscle growth. But proteins are literally the building blocks, the Legos, let's just say, for a lot of things in your body, such as your bones, your organs, your brain, your bone, and your muscles. Protein keeps the body healthy and strong, and protein is essential for good skin. Proteins are also really good for growth and development. So any child that is growing, if he's a little kid or even going through adolescence, will benefit from consuming high quality lean proteins. Next are carbohydrates, or carbs for short. So carbs have just been demonized these last few years, and people have become carbophobes and think that it will make you fat and make you insulin resistant. But there are very few studies to claim that carbohydrates itself is what makes you fat. It mostly has to do with eating more calories than what you should. And the reason carbohydrates are so important is because it's your body's gas, even though it's not as expensive, but it's your body's fuel for your body and your brain as well. Complex carbohydrates also have fiber. Insoluble and soluble fibers are really important for proper gut health. And nowadays, so many studies are coming out to indicate how important gut health is for immunity and preventing diseases. And the last macronutrients are fats. And no, fat does not make you fat. Eating more calories than what you should makes you fat. And the reasons fats are so important is because fats support proper joint health due to its anti-inflammatory properties. Healthy fats also improve cognitive function. And lastly, without fat, we're not able to absorb what are called fat-soluble vitamins. So there's water-soluble vitamins that could only be absorbed with water, obviously, and fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E, and K. And those without fat can't be properly absorbed. So if you avoid fat, expect to have vitamin deficiencies. Now to our micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals. Each vitamin and mineral helps with different functions in the body. This video will be too long if I would individually explain each of them, but each of them support different functions. They also aid in immune health, and they also help us fight off diseases. So with that being said, I'll give you a couple examples for each macronutrient. So for protein, healthy sources of protein should be lean, which means it doesn't have much fat. So protein sources you should be looking for in each meal are eggs, tofu, tempeh, beans, chicken, salmon, yogurt, and yogurt also has probiotics, which is good for the gut as well. Lentils and nuts and seeds, even though nuts and seeds have fat in it as well. And now for healthy sources of carbohydrates, literally any fruit or vegetable, whole grain cereal, oats, whole wheat bread, and brown rice. Then for healthy fats, you would want to look for fats that have more omega-3s than omega-6s. And omega-3s are really good for joint health and many other things. So almonds are a great source of fat. Pecans, cashews, olive oil, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, and pumpkin seeds. Obviously, there's many more, but this list will go on forever if I mention all of them. So then for how much protein you should have a day, you should aim to have at least 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Obviously, this does not apply if you're obese, because if you weigh, let's say, like 500 pounds, you're not going to be expected to have 420 grams of protein. So in that case, you would want to subtract the amount of body fat. So if someone is 40% body fat, you get his weight and you subtract it by 40%, and that's how much protein he should have a day. The scientific literature, they recommend less than 0.8 grams of protein per pound. But having more protein than that has not shown to have adverse effects. And on the opposite, protein helps keep us full. And also, if you work out, it is very important for muscle recovery, because when we work out, we're basically doing micro tears into our muscle. And when we're sleeping, protein synthesis helps repair those muscle fibers. And then for carbs, you would want to aim to have at least 1 cup of vegetables a day, which I know sounds like a lot, but if you split it up meal by meal, you'll see that it's really not as much. Just consume the fruits and vegetables that you like. For example, I don't like bok choy, so I wouldn't be having bok choy in my diet because I just make it difficult for no reason. And then for fats, they should be around 30% of your diet. So it's important not to overdo it on the fats, because fats have more calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and protein. Fats have 9 calories per gram, while protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram. Now let's talk about eating patterns. So there's a lot of different ways that people could eat. There's no one size fits all. For example, some days I do intermittent fasting, so I skip breakfast and I don't eat until 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. and then I'll have my first meal. And while I'm fasting, my body goes through what's called autophagy, and it eats up old cells in the body. Some people eat every 2 to 3 hours, so they'll wake up, have breakfast, then wait 2 hours, have a snack, then eat their lunch, have another snack, and then end it off with dinner, which that's totally fine and healthy. And then some people just have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which also works as well. At the end of the day, you have to see what works for you. It's kind of like a science experiment in the way that you are the subject and you're trying different things out and seeing which one has the best result. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. So personally, sometimes I do intermittent fasting, and some days I just decide to have breakfast. It just depends on how I feel that day. Now let's talk about hydration, which has nothing to do with food. So water is so important. If you follow this channel, you've probably heard me speak about this 1,000 times, but so many people just don't think it's that important, or they just brush it off. The reason why it's so important is because your body is 75% water. We can survive up to 2 weeks without food, but we could only survive 3 days without water. Your skin, your brain, your organs, your blood, everything is made of water. So if you're dehydrated, it could cause headaches, dizziness, poor cognitive function, so it makes you stupid. Constipation, because if you don't have water, you can't properly digest your food. Muscle and joint pain, because your joints are made up of liquid, and when you're dehydrated, your bones are more likely to rub against each other, which causes arthritis. So personally, I drink 1.5 gallons of water a day, and some people think that's crazy, but I've never really liked soda. Even as a kid, the gas was just too much for me. It made me burp, and I would just drink Coke or Sprite, and it would taste like straight syrup to me. I never was a fan. So for most people, I would recommend at least 1 gallon of water a day. Obviously, it depends on how much you weigh and your activity levels, but for most people, 1 gallon of water should suffice. And that might sound like such a lofty goal, but a cool way to drink more water is just to have water around you. Just having a water bottle in sight will remind you to drink more water. And it's just such a simple trick that it seems like it doesn't work, but it's just so effective. And don't try to get your water through juices, because juices is another nutrition scam that most people think that it's healthy, but it's really not. It's just full of sugars. Unless it's natural fruit juice, where you see the fruit being extracted of its juice and right into a bottle. But anything that is processed is just not good for you. And if you just don't like the taste of water, and if you do, you're kind of weird in my opinion, you could flavor your water with Crystal Light or any of those flavor things to make the water more palatable. So a simple test to see if you're properly hydrated is that when you go to the bathroom and pee, your pee should be basically white. If it starts to be a dark yellow, that's when you know that you're dehydrated. If it's brown or black, then you should see a doctor immediately. You're extremely dehydrated. Then lastly, just plan out your meals ahead of time, just for 2 to 3 days, so you could have a baseline of what you like to eat and how to conduct your eating schedule. And when you are making your meal, make sure to have 1 part carbs, 1 part healthy fats, and 1 part lean proteins. And if you have your fruits and vegetables for the day, that's really all you need. You don't have to go to school for 6 years like I did, and this video should suffice for you guys. So if you learned a thing or two, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a like. It really helps out the channel in ways that you can't even imagine. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.